Hello, welcome to VNews Broadcast Daily. I'm following today's headlines.
Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development Cao Đức-Phát attends the 144th session of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization Council. First ever Vietnamese-Indonesian Trade, Investment and Tourism Forum takes place in Hanoi. Seafood export value is forecast to exceed $6.8 billion this year.
Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development Cao Đức-Phát is attending the 144th sessions of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organizations Council. The sessions opened in Rome on June 11.
FAT delivered a report on the outcomes of the 31st United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization Regional Conference for Asia Pacific that took place in Hanoi on March 12th till 16th. According to the Minister, there was a consensus on the need to raise people's awareness of the importance of nutrition and education, whilst carrying out short-term programmes and longer-term strategies that ensure poor people and farming households with no land have access to a nutritious diet. The conference also emphasised the necessity of encouraging member countries to draw up agricultural and rural development policies, diversify the variety of plants grown and animals bred, introduce new products, and enhance the roles played by farmers' associations and cooperatives. On the sidelines of the 144th session of the organisation's council, FAT met with food and agricultural organisation officials to discuss a project worth $500,000 to control the spread of disease amongst shrimp. In the near future, Vietnam is expected to send specialists in rice and seafood production and rural development to work at the Food and Agricultural Organisation, he added.
Quảng Nam Province and Laos Province of Saigon held a high-level meeting in Tam Kỳ City on June 11th. During the event, the two sides reviewed the implementation of the agreements reached during their previous sessions and then discussed a cooperative program for the future.
At the meeting, representatives from Quảng Nam said the province has helped Saigon build several infrastructure works and train human resources. In the future, it will continue supporting Saigon province in infrastructure construction and socio-economic development, as well as receiving more Saigon students to train in Quảng Nam's colleges, contributing to strengthening the traditional relations between the two provinces. Quảng Nam Province has assisted Saigon Province in human resources training, infrastructure construction and socio-economic development. In the coming time, we want Quảng Nam Province to continue helping Saigon Province in socio-economic development, hunger eradication and poverty reduction, and human resources training. Both provinces should continue cooperating to complete the road linking Saigon's downtown and Quảng Nam, the joint border checkpoint and infrastructure of the border gate. A memorandum of understanding on cooperation in the future was also signed by the two sides during the meeting.
The Ministry of Education and Training has announced its plan of action for a national strategy on natural disaster mitigation for the period 2012 and 2020.
The plan is to raise awareness amongst the education sector, including teachers, support staff and students and pupils by providing them with appropriate knowledge and skills. It also aims to mobilize every source of help it can in an appropriate and effective manner to prevent and deal with natural disasters to minimize any disruptions to teaching and studies. Along with a number of policies and strategies in line with the National Strategy on Natural Disaster, these measures will boost education, socio-economic development, and public safety. Subsequently, research and studies on the design of model schools and classrooms able to stand up to natural calamities are expected to be completed this year. The sector plans to raise awareness of the issue amongst managers and staff at all educational establishments by 2015, as well as add basic knowledge of the subject to education programs and extracurricular activities.
The first ever Vietnamese-Indonesian Trade, Investment and Tourism Forum was held in Hanoi on June 11th. It aimed to enhance bilateral cooperation between the two countries in these sectors.
The forum, themed Vietnam-Indonesia, a partnership for prosperity, was organised by the Indonesian Embassy and the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It was an excellent chance for the business communities of both countries to seek out cooperation opportunities. Indonesia's Ambassador Meirfus said Vietnam is very important to Indonesia and the region, especially for trade and investment. In 2011, two-way trade between the two countries reached $4.6 billion, the highest ever during 67 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries, and a tenfold increase within the last 10 years. Both countries must work harder in the coming years to double bilateral trade to $10 billion by 2015, said the ambassador. Indonesia currently ranks 29th out of the 91 countries and territories that invest in Vietnam, with 31 projects and a capital investment of almost $233.3 million.
Deputy Prime Minister Hoàng Trung Hải has asked the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to instruct rice exporters to join in a program called Large Rice Field Model to increase the effectiveness of rice production and business.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development will work with various state agencies, provinces and the business community to expand production using the large rice field model and to draw policies to support the model. Larger rice fields are part of the government's policy to develop centralized materials areas combined with contracts for processing and selling products. Developing larger rice fields is a long-term solution that will enable the restructuring of the agricultural industry to make it more profitable and to ensure its sustainable development. The campaign to develop larger rice fields was launched in March 2011 in the southern provinces. 20 cities and provinces are now involved in the campaign with a total of 19,000 hectares under cultivation for the 2012 winter-spring crop.
A ministerial-level forum on trade and investment between Vietnam and Latin America will be held in Hanoi on July 5th and 6th, announced a press conference in Ho Chi Minh City on June 11.
The forum will look into the background of Vietnam-Latin America relations, potentials and opportunities, advantages and obstacles to trade, economic and investment relations between the two sides, and cooperation orientations. Delegates from 27 Latin American countries, including ministers and deputy ministers in charge of international trade and investment, representatives from Latin American embassies in Vietnam, and representatives of businesses from the continent operating in Vietnam or interested in doing business here are expected to participate in the forum. With a GDP of more than $5.5 trillion and a population of 580 million, Latin America represents great investment opportunities for Vietnamese companies. Two-way trade between Vietnam and Latin America rose from $300 million in 2000 to $4.5 billion in 2011, especially in oil and gas and telecommunications.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has forecast that the country's revenue from seafood exports will exceed $6.8 billion this year, a year-on-year rise of 11.9%.
The figure is $200 million higher than the previous forecast, which was issued last month. Vietnam's turnover from seafood exports in May alone is estimated to be worth almost $500 million, bringing the country's earnings for the first 5 months of this year to $2.3 billion. Seafood exports to the European Union face many difficulties, and not just because of the public debt crisis in the Eurozone, but also as the result of the EU's tariff barriers.
And this comes to the end of the news today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.